We now move, if we may, from, if you like, different modes of transport to policy and to regulation. Clearly, for all the various things, initiatives we've heard today to happen and to gain momentum, they need policy support and they need clear policies and clear support from government and the various interested bodies. So we thought we'd spend a bit of time talking about the right policy, promulgating the right policy, and then this whole issue of standards, because clearly as we create these new vehicles, we're going to have standards. How do we ensure that we have cross-border standards, if you like? We don't each country, each city decide on what its standards are going to be. How can we have some uniformity in terms of standards going forward? So if we may, would that panel and those contributors mind stepping down? They've kept the seats warm, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And then we move into the next phase. Laura Spanjian from the City of Houston, would you like to come and talk to us? Thank you very much. Would you like to come here? Yes, please, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? All right. So I'm Laura Spanjian. I'm the Sustainability Director for the City of Houston, Texas. And when I say I'm from the City of Houston, Texas, everybody says, oh yeah, the oil and gas capital of the US or the world, depending on your perspective. And I say yes, and the alternative energy capital of the US. That is our mayor's vision, and that is our goal, is to really capitalize on alternative and renewable energy and alternative renewable technologies. And electric cars are a big part of our program. So why are we investing in electric cars? Why is the City of Houston investing in electric cars? And just a little bit of background, Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States, 2.2 million people and growing. I think we're nipping at Chicago's heels as we speak. And we're also, a lot of people have put up slides that talk about their greenhouse gas emissions and where do they come from. And if you've seen, London's and a couple just even earlier today, Seoul, you saw that buildings were, 50 to 60% and cars tended to be in the 20s. Well, for Houston, our greenhouse gas emissions, our building emissions are about 50%. But our transportation contributes 37% of our greenhouse gas emissions. So we are higher than a lot of cities. And so it's a great market for us to talk about electric cars because it is a car culture in Houston, for good or bad. And so we're trying to work with people where they're at. So those are our challenges. What we've done to try to address those challenges is, as I said, work towards being an alternative energy leader. The City of Houston is the largest purchaser of renewable energy in the United States when you look at all municipalities, and we're 4th in the country when you add in private businesses. Over 33% of our portfolio is wind, and we're just about to raise that to 50%. We have a commitment to initiatives that not only push the city forward, but also engage and push the private sector. We just launched an initiative called the Green Office Challenge. We're the 2nd city in the U.S. to do it. And one of the things that we're asking the private sector to do is to put electric charging stations in their buildings if it makes sense, if they have a person who works in their building that buys an electric car, and I'll talk about that later. And then our own fleet. We made huge strides in our own fleet over the last couple of years. We now have the 3rd largest hybrid fleet in the United States, over 800 hybrid vehicles in our fleet. So let's go straight into electric vehicles. We couldn't have done this without partners. We have limited resources. We all are facing budget deficits, so we rely a lot on our partners, and we've had an amazing sort of strategic partnership with all of these entities that are listed. The Clinton Climate Initiative has been mentioned many times. It's a great resource for us. We have a local think tank, the Houston Advanced Research Center, that is a vital player. Ecotality is working with us on our planning process. Reliant Energy and NRG are extremely significant players, and I'll talk more about them in a second. CenterPoint Energy is our utility. They own the infrastructure. Reliant and NRG run the generation. Houston's a little bit different. We have our system is deregulated, and so one utility owns the infrastructure and another energy provider owns the generation. Nissan, a great partner of ours, and then we've received a lot of money from the players below. Our state Energy Conservation Office, the EPA, and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, they've all given us money to do electric vehicle work. And then the latest addition to our stakeholders are the universities. I haven't talked too much about universities in the last day or so, but we're real invested in working with them, and they're invested in working with us. We just created a collaborative where a number of companies as well as cities are providing funding, and their researchers at Texas A&M and the University of Texas are doing research projects for us. So we just funded 9 research projects, all on electric vehicles. So what have all these partnerships brought us? So for just the city of Houston, just the municipality, this is what it has brought us, and I'll talk about the private sector in a second. We have right now, currently, we have 10 of our hybrids are converted to electric hybrids. We're going to raise that number to 40 in about a couple months. We have 10 charging stations right now for the city of Houston. We're increasing that in the next 2 months to 30 municipal for our fleet and 35 public charging stations. And they're using different technologies. We're actually probably going to have 3 different electric vehicle charging infrastructure so we can see how they all work. We're investing, through our partnerships, investing in residential and commercial infrastructure, and really that means free infrastructure. So our partnerships with Ecotality, they're providing free infrastructure for Houstonians who buy a Chevy Volt. Our collaboration with NRG and Reliant is helping us with our commercial infrastructure. And there's a big announcement that they're going to do in the next 10 days, which I'll touch on in a second. Our electric vehicle microclimate planning process. A lot of cities, we talk about all the things we do. Not a lot of people have stuff written down on paper. We want ours written down on paper so we can not only talk to Houstonians about this and why this is important, but also talk to other cities and share information. So we're going to have deployment guidelines at the end of this month and a microclimate planning process that looks specifically at Houston and is very strategic about where this infrastructure goes. That should be done by the end of the year. And we're going to buy cars. That's the other great thing. We're actually buying electric vehicles into our fleet, and we should have a good number of them by February of 2011. So what are the different things that you need to be successful? Houston's unique in that I would say we came to this electric vehicle party a little bit late, but when we came big. And so most of the work I've talked about has literally happened in the last year. So we've kind of been running fast and furious. So you have to have a mayor that is extremely supportive and city support. You have to have electric providers, energy providers, and utilities that are extremely supportive. And I want to touch on that for a second. The number of municipal charging stations that you saw, the total number is 75. For some cities, when you heard from Stockholm and Madrid, and you're like, oh, that's hardly anything. Well, one of the things that we've had close collaboration with is the private sector. So our residential energy provider is making an announcement in 10 days, and I can't give it all away, but they are making a significant investment in charging infrastructure in the city of Houston. You heard from London yesterday that I think existing, you're within 3 miles of an electric charging station, and they want to reduce that down to 1 mile. Well, for us, ours is going to be 5 miles. That is our goal for the first 6 months of 2011, is that you're within 5 miles of an electric charging station, and that's going to happen because of a massive investment by our residential energy provider. And so we're really excited about that. And they're a mix of different types of charging stations, slow and fast, that they're going to invest in Houston. And hopefully be a model for other private sector partners to see what's happening in our city and actually do the same thing, so that it's not all on the public sector to do this, but that your private sector partners are actually coming to the table and helping you get ready for electric cars. Infrastructure, the charging stations, obviously in obvious spots, park and ride locations, points of interest, interstate charging facilities. We're working with our partners in what's kind of called the Triangle of Texas, Austin and San Antonio. Multi-family developments, that one's a little bit harder nut for us to crack, but we're working on it feverishly to kind of figure out how someone who lives in an apartment building can have can actually charge their car. Working with our OEMs, obviously we talked about that, and sort of the one-stop shopping at the dealership, and I'm going to go into deep detail on that in about 30 seconds. But consumer incentives, this is something we've struggled with. We really want to give incentives to the consumer. I know there was a question yesterday, well, what about helping them buy the car? Obviously in the US, we have a federal tax incentive of $7,500. In Texas, there was a bill to add $5,000 to that. It didn't pass, but we're hoping to bring that back in the legislature in 2011 so that there's an additional $5,000 that you're given for the car. And then for Houston, we want carpool access. So we have a HOV lane, which is the carpool. And so if you buy an electric car, we want you to have access to that lane. We want you to have either reduced or free toll road charges if you have an electric car. Free charging infrastructure, I already talked about that, but the city of Houston is looking at putting money into that pot as well. So literally that everyone who buys an electric car in 2011 gets a free charging infrastructure. That's what we're trying to have. 24-hour or less online permitting, and I'm going to go into detail on that.
Sorry, Laura, I've got 4 more speakers to fit in.
Okay, how many minutes do I have?
You've done your 10.
I've done my 10? Oh no, oh no. Okay, just real quick, I swear this will take 30 seconds. This is our 24-hour permitting model, and literally with our online permitting and the staff that we're dedicating, you literally can buy a car in one day and have an electric vehicle charging infrastructure permit the same day if you buy your car before noon. That is our pilot, that is our commitment to anyone who buys an electric car. I'd love to talk to you more about how we're doing that. I can answer any questions, but it's a significant piece of our puzzle, and we hope that other cities can use our model and do the same thing to ensure that people know their permitting for their charging station is fast and easy. And that's it. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Wow. Right. I'm serious. What I'd like to give everybody time to have a say. We've got Carolin Reichert, and Carolin, would you like to come up, please? But do stick to your 5 minutes, please. Carolin, sorry. Please stick to your 5 minutes. Also, I know there's the mayor of Malmo here who would like to say a few words, and I know there are 1 or 2 other people in the audience. So let's see if we can stick to program.